All right, so what we're learning about this week is how to actually solve quadratic equations with one variable. And the first thing I want to talk about is what do we mean by one variable? Well, if we think about our quadratics that we have now, that we've been looking at a bunch, we normally see it looks like this, something like y equals x squared minus 2x plus 5. Well, this is two variables. Why is this two variables? Well, because we have an x and a y. So that's what's called a two-variable equation. This is not what math normally looks like, right? If you think about our algebra, the types of problems where we might draw a line down the middle and add and subtract all that, there's only one variable in all of those, not two. So this is called a two-variable equation. Well, a one variable is something that looks a lot like this, but we're not going to have the y as well. So for example, maybe it would be 5 equals x squared minus 2x plus 5. Something like that, okay? And so we haven't learned how to solve these yet. We have done all of the math that we need to be able to do it, but we don't really know how to approach this just yet, and that's what we want to get to this week. So there's a few things I want to go over. So first of all, so that's what a one variable equation is. Second thing is, well, with quadratics, it's a little bit more complex because it really breaks down into two different types. So there are simple problems, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, and there are complex. Okay. So what's the difference between these two? Well, I think it's best illustrated just through an example. Now, I just made these terms up for these. It's not officially called this, but I think it's a good way to illustrate it. So a simple quadratic, whoops, no, I put y equals. A simple quadratic might be x squared minus 3 equals 4, something like that. Whereas a complex would be something like x squared plus 2x equals 5. And what makes it complex is this second x. So it's not just that there's two x's, it's that there's an x and an x squared. Okay. It would still be simple if like this was 4x squared. Like that's still simple because all you have is x squared. It's the fact that there's the x squared and the x, because now these are not like terms. You can't combine these x's in any way. So solving is going to be really difficult. We're going to get to that in the second part of this week. So what I want to focus on is the simple problems. Okay, and that's what we're doing today. So when all we have is an x squared and then other numbers. Okay, well, to solve simple problems, the most important thing is it's very similar to how we solve all of our other algebra problems, where we use inverse operations. And so let's just review those really quick. Remember inverse, remember that means opposite, okay? So it's just a fancy math term for opposite. So inverse operations, they're nothing fancy. When you have plus, how do you get rid of plus? You minus, and vice versa. When you have times, how do you get rid of times? You divide, and vice versa. And then the important one is when you square something. Well, how do you get rid of a square? Well, you square root, okay? So we're going to actually be using this square root to actually get rid of that squared, okay? So go ahead and make sure you got those main points down. So we're talking about simple quadratics. We need to know our inverse operations, and specifically that the opposite of squaring something is square rooting.